Yo people, what's up? Welcome to another Magic the Gathering Commander video, and today we're gonna look at the next tribal commander deck, and it's gonna be white, and the theme is soldiers. Note here, not human soldiers or any kind of, it's just any type of soldiers. I was thinking about making it human soldiers because I found out during the deck building process that a lot of the old soldiers, which were just like creature type soldier, have been oracled into human soldiers. For example, Catapult Master was a soldier lord, I have the card right here, and that was oracled into a human soldier. So I could have done that, but I thought it would be more interesting to also get some other soldiers in there, like birds, dwarves, cats, you know, all the good stuff. So let's just take a look at the general and you will quickly see what this deck is all about. So our general is Odric the Lunarch Marshal. He costs 4 mana and it's a human soldier, and he is a 3/3, so that's okay stats, and he has the ability: at the beginning of each combat, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn if a creature you control has first strike. The same is true for flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, skulk, trample, and vigilance. Meaning, if you have any creature with any ability of the before mentioned list, then all your creatures get the benefits of that. So you see where this is going. This is a smash deck. I want to smash your face with a lot of soldiers which will stockpile a ton of abilities in the process. So how are we gonna do that? Well, let's take a look at the creatures first. First up, we actually have an enchantment creature. It's a human soldier. It's the Aegis of the Gods, and it's a 2/1 which has the ability you have hexproof. Note, this does not trigger Odric Lunarch Marshal's ability because it says you, the player, has hexproof. So that does not count, but still, I like to have these kind of protective creatures. Next up is the Aerial Responder. That's from the Kaladesh block, and he's amazing because he comes with 3 abilities for 3 mana. He comes with Flying, Vigilance, and Lifelink, which is a superb set of abilities. It's Evasion, then Vigilance for staying defensive, and Lifelink, because why not? So that's pretty cool. Next up is a pretty old one, the Aven Brigadier. He costs 6 whooping mana, but he gives all other birds and all other soldiers +1/+1. It's so sad that he is not legendary, because I would make a deck around him for sure. But yeah, too bad. Next up, Ballynock Trapper. Pretty simple. Tap to tap target creature, and whenever you play a white spell, you may untap Ballynock Trapper. So that is pretty cool. Because with the soldiers, even if you stockpile abilities, you still need to get through the enemy. And with that, it's a lot easier. You play a spell or 2, tap 2 creatures, maybe even 3, depending on if you want her tapped or not, and then just go in. Next up is the Balarush Banneret, which makes soldier spells you play cost 1 less. Also Kitkin spells, but that doesn't really matter in this deck. The Bastion Protector. It's a human soldier, as always. 3/3, and commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. So that's an indestructible source, which is very important. Of course, you have to always think about indestructible only in combat. It's because Odric's ability only trigger at the beginning of combat steps. So somebody can still wrath you in your main phase or after your combat phase. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Actually, no, in your second main phase, they still have it. So they have to wrath you in the first main phase. So, there you go. Next up is the Bane Lish Commander. He has power and toughness equal to the number of soldiers you control, so big guy. And he has the ability Suspend X for X and 2 white mana. X can't be 0, obviously, because that would be silly. And basically, whenever you remove a time counter from him when he is suspended, you put a 1/1 white soldier creature token into play. So you can play him fast by just suspending him for 1 and get 1 token out of it. You can play him instantly without tokens. You can suspend him for a lot and just get tokens, tokens, tokens. A lot of options with this one, which is nice. Rimas, King of Oreskos, there is our first cat soldier. So, actually we also had bird and dwarf soldiers before, so yeah. Diversity, yay! Vigilance, 3/4, very good. And whenever he attacks, you put a 1/1 white cat soldier creature token with Vigilance onto the battlefield attacking. And whenever he blocks, you put a 1/1 white cat soldier creature token with Vigilance onto the battlefield, blocking the same creature as he does. So, just get more tokens, whatever you do with him, which is nice. Captain of the Watch. She has Vigilance, and all other soldier creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance. So, this makes Odric's ability redundant, kinda, but it's okay. And whenever she enters the battlefield, you put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield, which effectively will be 2/2 with Vigilance. So, that's pretty nice. Next up, already mentioned this guy, Catapult Master. As you see maybe on the card, he's the old card is a soldier lord, but he's actually a human soldier. Same as with all other lords, like the elf guy, what was the other? The Goblin King, all of these guys, right? So this one is tap 5 untapped soldiers you control, remove target creature from the game. That's pretty nice, especially if you can give all your stuff Vigilance, because then you can smash, and whenever somebody does something silly, remove their stuff. So that is a very, very cool creature. The Elite Inquisitor, he comes with a nice set of abilities as well for 2 mana. He has First Strike and Vigilance. Also, he has protection from vampires, from werewolves and zombies. But sadly enough, protection is not affected by Odric's ability. That would be very, very cool indeed. The next one is the Fabled Hero. He has Double Strike, which is a super cool ability. I mean, if you have a ton of creatures with Double Strike, that's gonna be messed up. Also, he has Heroic, which means whenever you cast a spell that targets him, you put a 1/1 counter on him. So that is important because I'll have some enchantments and instants later to grant abilities. And if you have this guy on the battlefield, you want to target him mainly with these spells because it makes him bigger as well. Next up, the Fencing Ace, another double strike enabler, just for 2. Then we have Gideon's Lawkeeper, which is another tap creature. He's very cheap, and the disadvantage is he can only tap 1 guy per turn. But still, that's nice. Also, he's a soldier, so that matters. The High Sentinels of Arashin. Arashin, yes. They are flying, so they will make all your guys flying, which is sick. Because a lot of people will not have a lot of stuff against flying creatures, I'll guarantee you that. The High Sentinels of Arashin also get +1/+1 for each other creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. And for 3 and the white mana, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So growing your board, also growing them. That's a very good strategy. Here we have the Kalimi's Captain. He's a giant soldier. He's a 5/5, so one of the bigger guys actually. He has Vigilance, and he also comes with Monstrosity. Monstrosity 3, so it means you pay 5 and 2 white mana, and he gets +3/+3. Well, you put 3 1/1 counters on it. And then you cannot become monsters anymore. So you can do it 1 time. But if he becomes monstrous, you exile all artifacts and enchantments. So it's nice, it's a removal and a big creature. And here we have a really old card with a really weird ability. I had actually to look it up before I made this video, because I kinda knew what it did, but I really have to check again. It's the Kjeldoran Sky Captain. And it has 2 common abilities, Flying and First Strike, which is awesome, that gets shared. And the third ability will not get shared, but it's awesome, it's Banding. So what is Banding? I know some guys will never have heard of Banding, because newer players will not know this ability, because it's so old, it has never been used again, as far as I know. Basically, whenever you attack or block, you can, with this creature, decide to band this creature and another creature together, or maybe even several creatures. See, I will have to look this up even again. But basically you can band creatures together in a group, and they attack and block as a group. Which means if you band this and another creature together, the other guy can block both creatures with one. And if the other guy attacks and you band two creatures, you can, like, double block. But there's a difference to the normal double block procedure then. With banding, you're the guy who decides how the damage is dealt, and not your opponent. Normally, for example, if you block with two creatures, let's say a 9-1 and a 1-9, and your opponent has a 2-2, and you double block this thing, then he gets to decide where these two damage go. He can go 1-1, you can go 2 on one, 0 on the other creature, and that's pretty bad because he can kill your 9-1, obviously. With banding, you're the one who decides. So if I band a 9-1 and a 1-9 and double block, so to speak, then I get to decide, okay, you're putting 2 damage onto the 1-9. Have fun. Same is true if you band them to attack and he blocks them, you also decide where the damage goes. So that's an interesting ability, I guess. But yeah, I'll have to play with it to see if it's really that useful. Next up is Kiteron's Irregulars. They are renowned. Well, actually they have renown 1, they're not renowned yet. Which means if they deal combat damage to a player and they're not renowned yet, they get a 1-1 counter on it and become renowned. So they get from a 4-3 to a 5-4. Also, for 2 white mana, they can tap target creature. Note here, they don't need to tap themselves. In a commander game with a lot of mana on the table, they can tap a whole board, which is awesome. You can attack into enemies with no problem. Then we have the Lost Leonin. It's a 2-1 with Infect. Sadly, Infect does not get shared by Odric's ability, which would be insane because it would turn this deck into an Infect deck, basically, which would be really, really, really sick. But yeah, it's just a nice little thing, because if you have an indestructible, double-striking, flying Infect guy coming at you, I think that's enough. Here we have the Night Guard Patrol, comes with First Strike and Vigilance. Nice for sharing. And also, we have not only Odric the Lunarch Marshal, we also have Odric the Master Tactician, which is technically the same creature, but different name. And he comes with First Strike, so that's fun. He can fuel himself. That's neat. And he has a second ability. Whenever Odric, Master Tactician, and at least 3 other creatures attack, then you get to decide who blocks and how in this turn, in this combat phase. So that's pretty sick. Because you can say no blocks at all for you. You can say, oh, your important creatures are gonna block my big ones and die. There's so much sick stuff you can do with this. The Palace Jailer. It's a interesting creature. When he enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch, which in Commander can be very, very interesting indeed. And when he enters the battlefield, you exile target creature an opponent controls until an opponent becomes a Monarch. So there's also a little bit of politics involved. When you remove something really nasty with this, you can be like, okay, don't attack me, otherwise it will come back. You know what I mean? So that's pretty interesting. Of course, if they kill this thing, then it just stays exiled, so that's also a way around it. Next up is the Paragon of New Dawns, which is just a white creature buffer, basically. He gives +1/+1 to other white creatures you control. And for 1 white mana and tap, another target white creature you control gains Vigilance until end of turn. So do this before combat, share it with Odric, and attack. Here we have the Patrol Signaler. That's another one of these stupid untapped creatures, which is kind of fun. So for 1 white and untap, you can put a 1/1 white Kitkin Soldier creature token onto the battlefield. Note here, if as soon as you have something with Vigilance on the battlefield, this thing becomes rather useless. So I might actually remove this one again, because it kind of goes counter to the normal playstyle of this deck. The Precinct Captain. Is that how you pronounce that? Precinct? Anyways, he has first strike, and if it deals combat damage to a player, you put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield. More soldiers! And first strike. The Preeminent Captain. Also, first strike, and whenever he attacks, you may put a soldier creature card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So that's pretty sick. If you get this going early enough, you can just dump soldiers onto the battlefield, really. So that's nice. Rock's Pikemaster. First strikes and other soldier creatures you control have first strike. So again, redundant with Odric's ability, but still. Talia the Heretic Cathar. She has first strike. And creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. This can slow down your opponents like crazy. Especially in Commander, where a lot of the lands are non-basic lands. So, yeah, it's a cool card. And last creature is what I like to call the Fun Police from the new Ixalan set. It's the Tocatli Honor Guard, and it says creatures enter the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. Now, interesting is that counts for your creatures as well. Actually, this, for example, would counter Phage's ability that causes you to lose the game, I think. Not quite sure, actually. I need to look that up. Still, the thought behind this one is that most of my creatures don't have enter the battlefield effects, and a lot of opponents' creatures probably will have. So this is just a plus for me, basically. Alright, these are all my creatures, so let's see how we can enhance our strategy of smashing people's faces with instants, sorceries, artifact, and enchantments. Instants first, we have a Johnny's Presence for 1 white mana. You can give any number of target creatures each get +1/+1 and indestructible. And of course, it has Strife. So for 1 white mana, you can target 1 creature, and for each other creature you target, it's 2 and a white mana more. Obviously, if you go into combat, you only have to pay 1 mana before combat with this, and everything gains indestructible. So, and also if somebody just tries to Wrath you in like main phase, you can save some creatures with that if you have enough mana. Next up in the category of why do you put these cards in here, they're weird, we have Angel's Grace. I just put sometimes cards in my deck which probably 99 times out of 100 will fail, and that one time they will cause somebody to rage quit, and that might be one of those. It's a split second card, meaning if you play it, it will instantly resolve without anybody else being able to react to it. So that's pretty nice. And its effect is you can't lose the game this turn, your opponents can't win the game this turn. Until end of turn, damage that would reduce your life to total or less than 1, reduce to 1 instead. Your life total to less than 1. There we go. So basically, you can survive 1 more turn with this, which is interesting. You can also prevent people from just outright winning the game with some weird winning condition and stall for 1 more turn. And again, probably not the best card, but there will be the game where I win with this card, or I prevent losing with this card, and it's going to be glorious. Next up, a bit more effective, Aerial Interlude. You exile any number of target creatures you control and return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. What does this do? It dodges any mass removal, and it's amazing. If somebody wipes the whole board, which with a deck like this, where you just keep pumping out soldiers, is very likely, then this is absolutely devastating. They wipe the board, killing their own creatures, and you just, yeah, Area Interlude, back to attacking. It's amazing, in my opinion. And it's an instant, you can do it in everybody's turn, so that's even better. Here we have Fate's Reward. Again, another anti-board wipe effect. It's an instant, and you return to the battlefield all permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. So somebody rafts, you play this, you just return everything to the battlefield. If something has entered the battlefield effect, it will trigger, but in this deck that's not really the case. It's just an anti-Wrath card. Then we have Humble. I just find this a funny card. Until end of turn, target creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness of 0 and 1. So you can just kill something if like an Eldrazi attacks you, for example. Humble the Eldrazi. If some weird creature with a strange ability is causing you trouble, do that and it will be gone for the turn. Next up, again, very weird card, but I like it, is Lapse of Certainty. It's a white counterspell, which I really like. I like off-color effects, I really do. And this is counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, put it on the top of its owner's library instead of that player's graveyard. So it's not a true counter spell, but still, it might be just enough to screw somebody's day. And Swift Justice, until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike and lifelink. Again, this can just screw people in combat. First strike and lifelink, you can go back from the dead with this card, you can just kill everything, it's amazing. Now, sorceries, we have Angelic Edict and Iona's Judgment, which basically is the same card. It's a functional reprint. It costs the same. It's the same effect. It's exile target creature on enchantment. Then we have Launch the Fleet. It has Strife. It costs 1 mana and then 1 colorless more for each target beyond the first. And until end of turn, any number of target creatures each gain. Whenever this creature attacks, put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So basically for everything that attacks, add 1 more. Well, a 1/1, but still. And of course, this is kind of weird how it interacts with Odric Lunar Marshal, because basically you put this on your creatures, you go into combat phase, Odric copies all his stats, and then you attack, and then it triggers. So yeah, the counters don't benefit from Odric, but still, it's pretty nice if you can finish somebody off with this. And also, the tokens stay on the battlefield, so you're good to go for the next round as well. Nomad's Assembly, you put a 1/1 white core soldier creature token onto the battlefield for each creature you control, and it has rebound, so you play it, and then next turn, you play it again for free, which means you double your soldiers twice. Sick. Then we have Planar Cleansing, which is a nice board wipe. Also, a lot of the times you can actually prevent your own creatures to be killed with the other cards I showed you before. So I don't really need a lot of board wipes in this one, I think. It's the other players that board wipe most of the time, but still, it's nice to have something. Then for the artifacts we have Basilisk Collar, which gives lifelink and death touch if equipped. The Batter Skull, which gives a creature +4/+4, vigilance and lifelink if equipped. And also if you play it, it will be equipped onto a 0/0 Black Germ token. So it's already ready to go if you attack with Odric. So that's pretty nice. And for 3 mana you can return it to its owner's hand if somebody tries to destroy it, which is neat little option you have. Darksteel Plate, another source of indestructible. Gorgon Flail, +1/+1 and Death Touch, so another Death Touch swords. Grappling Hook is a double strike source, and whenever creature attacks you may have target creature block it this turn if able. So it has Provoke basically. Although Provoke lets you untap a creature and then have it block, so it's not quite Provoke, but still. Which is interesting because the goblin with Provoke was the Grappler, I think? Like a goblin with a grappling hook, I think. So I think it's kind of an homage to that guy. Loxodon Warhammer, almost in every equipped deck ever. It's 3/0 and trample and lifelink. I think it's my only trample source in this deck. But still, if you have it on the battlefield, it's getting nasty. I mean, first strike, trample, death touch. I don't need to say anything, do I? Stoneforge Masterwork. This is like a how would you say that? Like a coat of arms, kinda. Well, not as good, but still. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. So buff up one creature, make it big, smash. That's how you do it. Then the Sword of Vengeance, which is... Oh, actually, that's my second trample source. I totally forgot. +2/+0, first strike, vigilance, and trample. This combination alone is insane. But yeah, there we go. And the Whisper Silk Cloak, which gives creatures shrouds. Well, I don't this is kinda weird because it applies shroud to all of your creatures and then technically they're not targetable by anymore by anything, but because it happens beforehand, Ogrick's ability, it works, which is really weird. So you have to think about everything you want to do, like combat tricks and enchantments, instants before combat phase, if you have this on one of your creatures. Just saying. Actually, the creature that has it equipped will not get targeted, I think, by Odric. Wait, no, it targets all of your creatures, so it actually works. Never mind! Next up, we have the enchantments. First, we have Armored Ascension, which is a pretty nice card. It gives a creature +1/+1 for each planes you control, and it has flying, so it gets something big and flying, and everything else is gonna be flying. Next up, Asha's Favor, which is a pretty nice enchantment because it comes with flying, first strike, and vigilance. So again, giving a huge boost to your whole team if you have Odric. Battle Mastery, another double strike source. Call to Serve. Enchanted creature get +1/+2. Has flying and is an angel. Well, the angel part is not that important, but the flying is. Then Gift of Immortality. You enchant a creature, and when the enchanted creature dies, it returns to the battlefield under its owner's control. And then you return Gift of Immortality to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. So that means if somebody, let's say you equip this on your commander, and somebody kills your commander in combat, then your commander dies, Gift of Immortality goes to the grave, your commander comes back instantly, and then at the end of the turn, in the end step, Gift of Immortality comes back and gets equipped to the commander again. Which basically means if somebody wants to kill your guy, whatever you want to enchant with this, he has to do it twice in a turn. So it hinders these target removals very much. Thing is, if something gets exiled, then this does not work. It says dies, so exile still works. But still, it's a nice card. Light from Within. It has Chroma. Each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each white mana symbol in its mana cost. So that's +1 at least in this deck, +2 and sometimes even +3. Like with the Aven Brigadier, for example, the bird, you know? So that can be quite nasty, especially if you have all these abilities already piled up on your guys. Just, it's kind of like an overrun. The Mammoth Umbra, also very interesting. It gives +3/+3 and vigilance, and it has that weird ability called Totem Armor. If enchanted creature would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy this aura. So again, put this on an important creature and it's gonna get a lot harder to remove from the battlefield. Marshal's Anthem. It's an enchantment that gives your creatures +1/+1, and you can multi-kick it for 1 and white. And for every time it was multi-kicked, you basically you return up to X target creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield, and X is the number of multi-kicks. So this can be played after a board wipe, for example. If you have enough mana in like second main phase, for example, just put that out, a lot of creatures come back, and they're all buffed with Marshal's Anthem, which is pretty nice. Nimbus Wings, a simple flying source for the deck. Oblivion Ring to get rid of obnoxious stuff. Shielded by Fate, you enchant a creature, and enchanted creature has indestructible. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may attach Shielded by Fate to that creature. So that is very important actually. Because a lot of times if you play something like Shielded by Fate on an important creature, somebody will, if they can, instantly react to it and kill your creature in response. So the thing with this is, you put that on a a non-important creature. And the opponent will be like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna waste a spell for that. And then you play your commander, for example, and he comes into play with Shielded by Fate. So I don't think they can react to that. I think, but anyway, the thing is, you put this out on the battlefield and then play in the next turn an important creature, and then it gets automatically attached without having to play an additional mana or anything. So that's the main purpose. Maybe I think they actually can react to this, like to the trigger of Shielded by Fate. They can react to that, so that's bullshit. Learning by doing, guys. And we also have 3 planeswalkers. Elspeth Tyrell. You can gain life for each creature you control. That's +2 loyalty. -2 loyalties. Put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. Holy crap, that's amazing for this deck. And -5, destroy all other permanents except for lands and tokens. Can work in this deck. You can amount a lot of tokens, technically speaking. So yeah, that's an option. Then Gideon Jura, +2. During target opponent's next turn, creatures that player controls attack Gideon Jura this turn if able. Which is super weird. So, basically you force an opponent just to attack into Gideon, which is kind of funny, because if you have a lot of creatures, that's like suicide. Also, sometimes you could just redirect anger into Gideon instead to you, so it has its options. But the coolest thing is, for -2 you can destroy target tapped creature, and for 0 you can let Gideon become a 6/6 human soldier creature that is still a planeswalker, and then prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. So he becomes a 6/6 indestructible human until end of turn, a human soldier, and then you smash with Odric and all the other guys. It's actually pretty interesting. Then we have the other Gideon, the Gideon of the Trails. Until your next turn, prevent all damage that would be target permanent would deal. Actually, just saying, this one is from the... Oh, what was this set called? The Egyptian one? Jesus, I already forgot what that set's name was. I liked some of the set, but still, it was so forgettable for me. Yeah, you know which one I mean. Anyways, +1, you, until end of turn, prevent all damage target permanent would deal. That could be interesting if somebody has like an effect that deals damage over and over again. You can just prevent that for a lot of times. So that's interesting, but he has 2 other interesting abilities. 0, until end of turn, Gideon of the Trials becomes a 4/4 human soldier creature with indestructible. That is important, because again, Odric will be happy with that. He's of course still a planeswalker, and you prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn, which makes indestructible kind of redundant, but not entirely. And then also 0, you get an emblem with, as long as you control a Gideon planeswalker, you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. That can be relevant in Commander. It can be. If you have a good defense, you might force somebody to actually go absolutely crazy after your Gideon. So, just saying. Also, the emblem, it stays, of course. So, you can like put it into play with this one and then play the other Gideon later and still be like, yeah, I cannot lose. That's nice. For lands, we have 35 planes. I didn't know what to put in this, really. But the thing is, these 35 planes are very nicely for Armored Ascension, obviously. That would be, of course, a dream at 35. Plus 35, plus 35 and flying. That would be crazy, but yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, generally speaking, this is a very interesting deck because you smash with these crazy creature combinations with flying, trample, first strike, death touch, and all that stuff. But of course it has quite a lot of weaknesses in my opinion. You go mostly wide, so you don't have too much big creatures, so somebody with a lot of big stompy stuff will still be able to fuck you up. Unless you manage to get like a first strike death touch combination going on one of your creatures. then yeah, then you might be able to hold out, but still. Excessive Wrath effects will pretty much fuck this deck up. If you get Wrath 3 or 4 times, there's no coming back from that, I think. Counter spells might work very well. And I think one of the biggest shortcomings of this deck, which I've seen now, is it doesn't really have card draw. So if you run out of gas, yeah, you might be in trouble. So that's something I might want to fix. Well, obviously all of my commander decks get like fixed up every once in a while. If every edition that comes out adds new cards to each of them. And yeah, that will be something I need to keep my eye on, the card draw. Other than that, I think it's a very interesting tribal deck. You can get these weird combination of soldiers with the crazy stack pile of abilities, which will be super hard to deal with. And of course it works in defense and offense, because it's every combat phase. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, so this has been another commander deck. So the next one is gonna be red. And what do you think will be the tribal synergy of that deck? If you know it, write in the comments below and you'll get a gold star. Yes. Until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.